sunlight keeps falling and wonder where he is in all this mess. He's right there to guide you, unseen, you're not alone. His light shines on the past that we're not shown. Give me shelter, Lord, from this storm. As it poured, you made it cure. In an overcrowded mind, the hurt, it brings us down to where we reach for Him. Our God has hands to heal, saves us from our faults and fears, giving us the peace that we so desperately
Three times three equals three.
need.
6. 3 times 3 is 9.
Give me shelter,
Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Proverbs 23:24. The father of the righteous shall greatly rejoice, and he that begetteth a wise child shall have joy of him.
Welcome, everybody. I know that I am doing this 2 hours earlier than I had planned, but that is just the time frame that I was given today. This live stream is going to be dedicated to information about homeschooling. If you have a question, let me know in the chat what your question is, and I will do my best to try to answer it. And for the rest of the time, I will just be trying to talk about everything that I know about homeschooling. I decided to do this because I see so many people making comments about how they couldn't be able to homeschool because they think that they aren't smart enough, or they think that they can't afford it, or they're just unaware of different options that are available to them. So I'm just going to talk about and try to answer all of those things to give people an understanding about what homeschooling is, how everybody is able to homeschool, and options that are available to people when they choose to homeschool. Uh, Before I go any further, I just want to welcome anybody that is tuning in, watching live. Welcome to the live stream. Anybody that is watching in the future, thank you for dropping by and checking out this video. And if you are watching in the future, leave me a comment of what you think, questions you might have, whatever. I'm not sure how long I have for today's live stream, but I will try to cover as much as I can. And if a follow-up live stream is needed, I will be happy to do that. So let me just start off with what homeschooling is. Homeschooling is um, a parent choosing to not put their child in the public education system and doing the schooling at home. Now, when you make this choice, there is a wide range here. There is a wide range of options available to parents depending where they live. Now, I'm familiar with Canada, so I'm going to be mostly talking about how homeschooling works in Canada, in particular where I live, British Columbia. I have looked into homeschooling in different provinces. It is slightly different as you go across the country. I know America's the same way. From state to state, there's different policies when it comes to homeschooling. But if you're interested in homeschooling, I suggest that you look into the rules for your particular province or state because it could vary from this video. So I will try to cover things as broad as I can. And when I do give details, I will try to specify that this is where I live. This applies to where I live. Now, here in British Columbia and in most places, when you choose to homeschool, there are different ways to do it. Here in Canada, you do not have to have a teaching degree. You do not need to have any special degree from college or university to homeschool your own children. If you're looking at and educating other people's children, that's when you need to look into degrees and such. But for educating your own children in Canada, you do not need to have any certificate education for that. Now, if you're somebody that has just a grade 12 degree or certificate, or you graduated high school, you can homeschool your own children and be perfectly fine. If you don't have the confidence to do that, there are options available to you that I will get into. Now, you got to keep in mind that homeschooling it isn't as scary as people let on. You are starting from kindergarten when you're homeschooling. So you're working your way up the grade levels. So you can do a very much learn as you go, learn with the child approach if that's what you feel would be good for you. Now, if you're not comfortable putting your child's education in your hands, which some people are not. Some people are very reserved when it comes to are they able to homeschool. And I'm here to tell you, yes, you are able to homeschool. You're smart enough to homeschool. You're quite capable of homeschooling your child. Now, some states do not allow parents to homeschool their children, but that is based off the state. But every parent is quite capable of educating their own children. But here in particular, and I think this goes with a lot of different places, there is the, here we've got traditional homeschooling, which is uncensored, unsupervised by the Ministry of Education. It's completely putting your child's education in your hands. You control what curriculum you use, what materials you want to use, what hours you want to educate, the approach that you want to educate your child. It's all in your hands. Now, there is another option which is called DL, distributed learning. It's where you sign up with an independent school that caters to homeschoolers, where you will be assigned a teacher that will help guide you to educating your child in a specific schedule. The teacher will decide the curriculum, um, when assignments are due, when tests are to be given, etc., etc. The DL program here in BC ends with a degree, a degree certificate. So if you're wanting that certificate for your child, that is what the option yet you probably would choose. With traditional homeschooling, it doesn't end with a certificate. When they finish grade 12, when you've done the full education for your child, they don't get a certificate. But that doesn't mean to say that your child won't go to university or college, because it has been proven that schools, colleges, and universities actively seek out homeschooled kids. They have qualities that make them very good students. So, what you would do with the traditional homeschooling approach is you would train or teach your child how to go through the application process for college and university so that they were able to get into college and stuff. But for those of you that are thinking about homeschooling, that um, question whether you're capable of homeschooling and haven't even gotten into it, you don't need to stress or worry about that from the beginning. You can transition as the years go by. Like the elementary years are very simple. They don't take it it doesn't take a lot of thought to go through the basics for elementary to or kindergarten to grade 6. And then you can use those 6 7 years to prepare yourself for the next level. And you can do traditional homeschooling for kindergarten to grade 6, kindergarten to grade 9, and then transition to the DL um, program to for the high school years to get that certificate if that's the choice that you want. So you don't have to commit yourself to one style. Let's say you jumped in traditional homeschooling in kindergarten. You don't need to stick with that for the full 12 years of school. You can change it up if that is what is needed for you or your child. You can go, if you start off with the DL and you find it too much or it's not needed, you can switch back to traditional school. You do not need to stress yourself of, if I pick this style of homeschooling, I've got to stick to it for 12, 13 years. That's not the case. You can switch it back you can transition to something that works for you. Now, I remember when I first started homeschooling many years ago that the choices were overwhelming and there was a lot to think about and a lot to consider. And I found it a very stressful time. And I didn't have a lot of support or community to help me with the choices I was making. And I, along the way, found communities that helped guide me with information that would help me. And I've transitioned from my parenting styles over the years to find something that fits my children and me. So there are many different options to choose from, and it doesn't have to be a stressful thing. You can take your time and work on a system and a program that works for you and your children. Now, I'm going to show you guys something. Let me find it for you guys. Let me see here. Is this it? Yeah, this is it. I'm going to play this for you guys because there's a lot of good information in this video. It goes over all of the different kind of homeschooling options. Is this it? Is this the right? Okay, yeah. I'm just going to make it smaller, and I will pause it and go over it as needed. Every homeschooling family is unique. There are many methods, curriculum, and approaches to choose from when it comes to homeschooling your children. When you first look into homeschooling and go to sign up your child for homeschooling, the government is going to give you two options to choose from. There's distributed learning, which a lot of homeschool moms will refer to as DL, and there's traditional homeschooling. You will either register as a traditional homeschooler through a public or independent school, or you will enroll as a distributed learning student through a public or independent school. Things that will determine what school and what you sign up your kid up for will be funding, costs, resources, classes, lending library, or the teachers. Distributed learning, you work with a certified teacher on curriculum, progress, and tests. With traditional homeschooling, you are not supervised by a certified teacher. You are not required to meet provincial standards, and there is no inspection from the Ministry of Education. If you are the type of parent that wants to homeschool at home but wants help with the guidance of your child's education, then the distributed learning program would be good for you, because you will get guidance with what curriculum to use, when to give tests, going over the progress of your child. When you enroll in DL, you will get access to funding as well. How much will depend on the school that you sign up with, public or independent. Each school is different. Some schools require you to pay a tuition fee. It really depends on what school you sign up for. So what you should do is you should look around at all your different choices in your area and see what option would be best for you in your situation. Registering for traditional homeschooling is more flexible. You get to choose what curriculum you want to use, what method you would like to use for homeschooling, and there are many different styles for homeschoolers. If you are a homeschooler or looking into homeschooling and you want to know what style would be right for you, here is a list. I have seven styles I'm going to go over, and they're just talking about all the different kind of styles that people usually fall into. If you're already a homeschooler, why don't you let me know down in the comments which style is you. Number one is very structured, using box curriculum and keeping normal school times for students. This is referred to as school at home. Number two is structured, using online or boxed curriculum with structured school times. Number 3 is semi-structured using boxed curriculum for core subjects and using online resources and field trips to fill in needed areas, emphasizing on the arts and literature as well as practical life skills. 4 is semi-structured, child-led learning with curriculum being used for core subjects. There is an emphasis on field trips and practical skills as well as arts. Semi-structured learning for math, reading, and writing. Child-led learning for all other core subjects and areas of inquiry. Non-structured learning, adding some emphasis on reading, writing, and math, and utilizing practical skills. And free learning on all subjects, core and otherwise. Completely child-led and non-structured. This is often referred to as unschooling. So those are 7 different types of homeschooling. Everybody has a style that fits them the best. If you already know your style, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. So that's the different styles of traditional homeschooling. Some independent schools offer funding to traditional homeschoolers, but that has really changed this year because of the funding cuts from the government. I'd love to hear from you. Let me try to just keep this up. Okay, so you know what? If I was to use browser source instead, I might be able to not go back and forth between my browser and the program. Let me try that. Yeah, interact. Completely child-led and non-structured. This is often referred to as Okay, we're just gonna pause it here for a second. Hey, Live Freedom, welcome. So I just went over the 7 different styles of homeschooling. Now, this is where people get a lot of really caught up and not understanding it. So I'm just going to try to clarify as best I can. Okay, you go all the way from red to violet. Red is the most structured form of homeschooling. It is like a duplication of the public school system, but at home. Purple is completely child-led, free range, let your kids decide what they're doing and learn mostly through day-to-day life type of situation. Now, with the structured learning, you would get box curriculum for all of the subjects, which is overwhelming to think about for a lot of people because it can be expensive and that's a lot to take on. That option works for some people, but it is still just an option. You do not need to pick that option. You can choose which option best suits you and your child. Maybe you need to meet in the middle somewhere and have a little bit of structure, but have a little bit of free led learning at the same time. Hold on 1 second. Now, um, with box curriculum, it can cost you anywhere from like $400 or $500 to $1,000 to get the box curriculum. If that's something that you choose, that option is definitely available. You would just sit down for a set time every day, Monday through Friday, just like the public school system, and you would go through all the subjects through the box curriculum. The box curriculum really guides you along because they have the curriculum that you got to go through, all of the different information, and they have scheduled quizzes and tests right in the box curriculum. There is resource guides for you. There's a teacher guide to help you with the information, to help you with the quizzes, to help you with the tests. So box curriculum is really set up to lead parents with the educational program. Now, some people choose to go free free range learning method, or unschooling is a term you might have heard. Hey Nikki, how are you doing? Where they let their interests of their child determine the educational path that they go on. Like if your child is big into a certain type of novel, or maybe they like to build things, maybe they're into computers, maybe they're into art and drawing, you would really take advantage of those interests and learn through those interests. Like if in these situations, unschooling situations, parents tend to use a lot of outdoor activities to get the kids learning in nature and learning through life situations. Like uh, if you take going to the grocery store as an example, that's a learning opportunity for your child because they it's a you got to do math, and you got to budget, you got to plan out your meals, so you've got to buy according to what you need for the week or the month, depending on how you grocery shop. All of these things, parents can use these kinds of situations to help prepare their children and educate their children. I incorporate culinary arts classes because I want my kids to know how to make meals. I want them to know how to bake things. Bake People nowadays are more prone to going and buying a box of cookies or a thing of muffins off the store shelves instead of making it themselves. People don't bake bread anymore. People buy bread. And I would really like my kids to know how to do these things for themselves instead of having to depend on the store to get those things. 11 years old is doing archery. 8 years old is a modeling a clay family. Oh, that's awesome. That's always fun stuff to do. Archery is definitely a fun sport to get into. But that's a benefit with homeschoolers, and you also get a very flexible schedule when you choose to homeschool. With people that have their kids going to public school, they're stuck to the Monday through Friday set hours of when their kids in school. They have to work around that schedule. With homeschooling, you can have a very more relaxed schedule, something that fits your needs. If you want to go on a field trip at a spur of the moment type of thing, you can definitely do that with homeschooling. If you want to go on a family vacation, you can go any time of the year. You don't have to worry about school and working around that. But let's get back into the options available for homeschooling. So you with the box curriculum thing too, you can spend $4 or $5 to $1,000 on the physical books, or you there are online options where you just pay a monthly or yearly fee, and it will go through the curriculum with your child on the computer instead. I think it is a little bit cheaper to do it that route, and there's also resources in the online programs to help your child if they get stuck. We're building bingo beds next week. And bingo beds. I don't think I've ever heard that before. That's interesting. I right now for our homeschooling, I am doing the basic subjects. I have math books, and we do English and reading, and I have a geography and history books that we go through. And for science, because it's spring, we do a lot of outdoor learning with the whole science subject because it gets the kids outdoors learning about nature and learning about the environment around them. Like we last year, for one of our science projects, we got some caterpillars and we watched them transition into butterflies and we released them. I also have several different nature books that have different projects, different activities that you can do outside, and we go through those and we do that with the kids. I actually have this book that I just picked up that I'm doing outside with the girls. Let me see if you can see that. Girls Guide to the Wild, my nature journal. So it has you weather log, you log the weather. It has you doing different activities. It has you logging bugs and animals that you see, scavenger hunts, all kinds of different stuff. But that's kind of what I'm doing with the girls outside, and I've got a different book that I do with the boys, and that gets us outside doing things in nature and having fun. Like the other day, I don't know if anybody's seen, but I did a short showing this spider that caught a fly, and we got out the macro lens and we got a up close picture of it and video of it, and it was really neat to show that to the kids, and it was something they actually seen with their own eyes. So that was really neat to do. And those are the kind of experiences I like to do with the kids and see with the kids. Your mic low. I can't hear you well at max. Let me see here. Does that help? Did that help? Let me move it closer to my mouth. Did that help? I don't have any filters on. No. Let me see here. Gain. Let me turn gain on and see if that will. Did, well, does that make it so you can hear me better? Let me know if that makes it so you can hear me better. Let me just close this. It might give me a little boost. Nice. Okay. So let me see here. I can barely see that for myself. So in between box curriculum and unschooling, you have like half and half. Some people do like set curriculum for subjects like math and English, and they do like a more relaxed unschooling approach with the other subjects. And it's all goes back to what works for you and your child. Um, like my daughter, one of my daughters, she is a awesome reader. She loves art. She's very good at drawing. She loves to do that kind of stuff. So I am able to get her art supplies and how to paint, how to draw books to really help her excel in that area. And with my son, he is very good at building, very good at math. He loves numbers. He loves doing stuff with his hands. I'm able to get him and focus on those areas to make learning fun, to help develop those skills that he has and she has, to maybe they can use it in the future for a career or something that they want to do as an adult. You can really invest in your children and their strengths when you're homeschooling. When you spend the time to really know what they're good at, what they enjoy doing, and focusing on that. That's something that the public school, I think, lacks. They take um, a structured um, approach with all of their children. A teacher will have, at least here, a teacher will have a class of 30 to 35 students, and that one teacher's got to go through a set curriculum for 30 to 35 students throughout the year. So there's not a lot of one-on-one time. There's not a lot of finding out um, strengths and weaknesses in each child. There are children that fall behind because they can't keep up with the class because the teacher's got to keep up with a set schedule, and she's got deadlines that she has to meet, and she's not able to really focus. It's hard to focus on 30 to 35 students. It's pretty much near impossible. I have met teachers that homeschool their own children because they know the benefits of homeschooling versus the public school system. I don't use box curriculum. I did use box curriculum when I first started homeschooling, and I moved into, I went completely, I flopped. I went all the way from box curriculum to unschooling, and that wasn't, I wasn't happy with that either. So I ended up somewhere in the middle where I I use some curriculum to meet standards with reading, writing, and math, and I do like the unschooling approach with the other subjects and learning in life, learning through life's experiences, learning outside. Hello, welcome. So I buy a lot of kits. We go on a lot of school field trips when we can. I believe in teaching life skills, growing a garden, cooking, um, budgets, uh, how to take care of your home, all of these skills that you need to know as an adult. I am trying to teach my children how to do. I am trying to teach them business. I know that they're very young, but I believe the younger you start to teach them, the better off they will be. Like they learn how much it costs to buy ingredients to make baked goods. They take their baked goods that they make and they go outside and do up a little stand and they'll sell their baked goods, and they'll take that, the money that they made selling their baked goods, and they'll buy um, more stuff to bake more goods to sell, and they'll get a little, they'll take the little bit left over and they'll get a treat with it, or they'll invest it in something that they want. That's the kind of stuff that I'm trying to teach them how to do. I do my own curriculum for reading and writing, but math, I do use online tools. Math is essential. It definitely is. Reading, writing, and math are, in my opinion, are super important. And I think it's awesome that you do your own curriculum for those subjects. That is awesome. The reading unlocks so much information. Like I tell my kids, once you learn how to read and you learn new words and you get better at reading, it really opens a whole world to you. I really want to encourage my children to love to read because there's so much out there to read and it grows your imagination. You can learn so much by reading different things. We journal daily and reading. They're way above grade levels. That's awesome. And you know how often that is with homeschooling, that they end up above public school standards. Because, like I was saying before, when a teacher's sitting down with 30 to 35 kids, they can only do so much, right? So, and even when they get 6 to 8 hours a day with the kids, you got to think classes are usually 30 to 45 minutes, depending on the grade level and the school that they go to. So, how much of that time is just getting the kids to sit down and listen? How much of that time are they actually learning something? And then there's a portion of the time where they're getting ready to go to the next class. They're not able to do as much work in a set period of time as a homeschooling mom is able to do with focusing on one or two children or however many children you might have. I believe, this is my opinion here, I believe I can do more in 15 minutes with my child one on one than a teacher can do in 45 minutes with a class of 30. That's my opinion. That's right, not to mention time out for testing. You doing need in there is you don't. I believe children when it comes to learning needs the one-on-one, and I don't think the public school system is able to keep up with that standard of needing one-on-one. I agree 299%. There you go. And you said you homeschooled, right? Yep, obviously, because you make curriculum and everything like that. So you understand everything I'm saying. No. And testing and quizzes are uh, something that that parent can choose. Some homeschooling parents like to do testing so that they can keep track of where they're at, how much information they've obtained, what information they might need to focus on or go over again. Some parents don't feel like they want to do testing because they don't want that kind of pressure for their kid. And you know what? It really depends on the kid too, because I think you said you had a few children, so you probably know the difference that each child has from the other one. Some kids are very good at test taking, some not so much. Have you ever I was like this as when I was in school. I I was really smart. I could obtain a lot of information, but there was times when I was taking a test and I'd freeze up. It's like you go blank because of the pressure. So, and then if you are like that, you imagine like with exams being such a big part of high schoolers' grade level, and it's like 30% or something like that, and you're going in for an exam and you spend months studying, but you have anxiety or something, or a mental issue with your brain, and you just blank and freeze, and you're not able to complete the test, and you fail, and then you lose a huge chunk of your grade, and that's going to affect if you get into college, and that puts a lot of pressure on on kids in high school. I think that not all kids are meant to sit down and take tests. I think it depends on the child that you're teaching and the approach you go at teaching them. Yes, you can. Yeah, I mentioned this earlier. Go sit down. I mentioned this earlier how we have the traditional homeschooling approach, which you are not monitored by the Ministry of Education. You are not required to do testing, but at the end of the 12 years, you do not get a grade 12 certificate. And we have another program called distributed learning, where you can sign up through a school, You do online, your child does online meetings with the teacher. You go through the program and tests and stuff as they sign them. And at the end of that, you can get a certificate. And if you wanted to do the traditional homeschooling approach but get a certificate, you could do traditional homeschooling from K to 9 and do the high school years in the DL program with a certified teacher to get that certificate. That is an option if you're looking for the certificate. Now, everybody's got to keep in mind that it's been proven that colleges and universities seek out homeschoolers. You do not need that certificate to get into college and university. You just need to know how to apply for college or university. Yes, I am Canadian. So I know things are a little different here. Homeschooling does differ across the country. Like if you take Nova Scotia, for example, every year at the end of a school year, your child needs to take a test and pass a certain that grade levels test, whatever the the Ministry of Education has set out for that grade level. They need to take that test and pass it. Here in British Columbia, you're not required to do that testing, but there is options out there for you to do it if that's what you choose. Here I can get the test for a high school certificate with homeschooling throughout. They just changed that in my state. Well, that's awesome. It's good to know that they are changing things, hopefully to help homeschoolers out. Like back in 2020, I covered something that the government did here that hurt homeschoolers. Um, through the independent schools, like when you are required to register your child that they are homeschooled. If you're not putting your kid in public school, they still need to be registered that they're getting some form of education. Now, you have the choice to register through the public school or have the choice to register through an independent school. Now, I have always been registering through an independent school, and the independent schools are what offer the DL programs to some homeschoolers. Now, in 2020, the government cut funding to the independent schools, which took funding that the parents would get if they chose to homeschool. You in BC, if you choose to do the traditional homeschooling and you register through an independent school, you can be eligible for up to $150 per student. With the DL program, you were you were eligible up to like 600 and some dollars per student for resources towards homeschooling. Now, when they cut the funding, it took the $150 per student uh, from traditional homeschoolers, and it cut the funding for the DL program, which hurt a lot of people were that were like middle class and lower class because they used that money to help pay for resources that they were using to help with the homeschooling. Now, when you go and you want to register through an independent school with the DL program or a traditional school, there can be a fee applied depending on the program that you're choosing and the school that you're registering with. The DL program in some schools went from a free program where you got funding to something that you had to pay for all of a sudden. And all of it just happened from at the end of one year. And then the next year it was you have to pay for this now. And it totally shocked so many people in the community that I'm involved in. People were cut off the next year. They didn't have time to adjust. There was no warning. And all of a sudden, the program that they loved they had to start paying for it. And so you were either stuck paying for it or you're having to do research on what options are available to you, and you've got to switch to something that will work with you. Now, another thing when they did this cut with to the independent schools, all of these independent schools offered co-op classes where homeschoolers could gather together and do things like woodworking, stuff like that. They could be in a class and learn skills like that. And all of a sudden, there less classes are available. They're more spread out. Some the classes that were available in my town are no longer available because funding has been cut. So it really hurt parents when they depend on these things because they're looking to meet certain guide or they're looking to meet certain standards for their homeschooling. If they relied on these classes for these skills and to have socialization in their child's life, and all of a sudden it's gone, it's really a setback. Like, what am I going to do now? Now I have to totally rethink how I'm going to do next year. We have co-op to do that, but it's not funded by the state at all. We have to fully fund it ourselves. And I think with the classes that are left, that's what it is now. You've got to pay to sign up for these classes now. But it was funded, it was available to almost everybody. And if you were in the DL program, I know for sure if you were in the DL program, they had classes available that didn't cost you anything. It was just a benefit from that school. So I hope I hope people are understanding what I'm trying to say. Um, with the different options available with here, you don't need to be rich to homeschool. It is an option if you want to put thousands of dollars into box curriculum and materials and stuff like that. That's an option that you can definitely do, but you don't have to. There are free resources available online that you can sign up for, um, worksheets that you can do. There are cheaper alternative for online classes that you can do. You can, like Nikki does, you can make your own curriculum. That is an option. You can buy activity books for each grade level at Amazon offers curriculum at a cheaper price. Uh, Walmart offers it. My local superstore offers it, and Staples offers it. So there's places where you can go to get cheaper book workbooks for each grade level, and Amazon is a great resource to have. Give me 1 second, please. I'm gonna just play this video here. Homeschooling. So those are 7 different types of homeschooling. Everybody has a style that fits them the best. If you already know your style, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. So that's the different styles of traditional homeschooling. Some independent schools offer funding to traditional homeschoolers, but that has really changed this year because of the funding cuts from the government. If you want to learn more about that, how funding has changed, you can check out my video, Homeschool Funding Cuts. I will leave a link down in the description if you're interested. I also made a video going over what I will be using this school year, and it's called Preparing for Another Homeschool Year, or Another School Year Unboxing. I will leave a link in the description for that video as well if you'd like to check that out. I also have videos going over curriculum and science kits on my channel if you're interested in seeing different kind of science kits or what I use for science. If you choose to enroll as a distributed learning student or a registered homeschooler through an independent school, you will also have access to what they call a lending library to borrow or rent curriculum for the year. And you will have access to classes like the school I've been registered for the last couple of years is an independent school, and they've had Minecraft classes that you can sign up for, and they also have community classes you can attend in different locations throughout the province. Like you can take trade classes, woodworking, crafts, stuff like that. It allows the children to get together and have some time to socialize and do fun activities. So that's something that my independent school provides, is a lending library and community classes and an online class for Minecraft that the kids could sign up for if they chose. My advice for new homeschoolers is relax. This is a learning progress. Nobody's perfect at it. I have changed so many times over the last 8-9 years. I've changed schools, I've changed styles of teaching, I've changed the curriculum that I use. I have taken different approaches because it's all about finding what works for you and what works for your children. I found what works best for me is working 2 to 3 hours in the morning. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way and I do school in the afternoon. I do it about 4 or 5 times a week. If I take a couple days off Monday through Friday, I can do school on the weekends, and that's perfectly fine. Sometimes I choose to do that because Monday through Friday is the best time during the school year to go to parks, go to pools, go to stuff like that because it's not as busy. You can go to museums throughout the week and they're not as busy because everybody's in school. So it's all about finding a system and method that works for you and your children. All children learn differently, right? They learn at different paces. Like my daughter struggles with math, but she's very good at English. So I have to take a little extra time focusing on math with her, and she flies through her English work. My son is excellent at math, but he struggles a little bit with English. So it doesn't take him very long to do his math worksheets, so we focus more on his English to try to get that up to where I want him to be. Now, it's okay if your children if you're a traditional homeschooler, it's okay if your children are a little bit behind the normal grade level because you're doing schooling at home and you can be flexible to your child and they won't feel the pressure from their peers that they're falling behind, and they won't feel bad about it. If you think that your child is excelling really well and you want to push to the next grade level, that's great. A lot of homeschoolers do that too. Maybe they're a grade level behind in math and 2 grade levels ahead in English. You can work with your child's strengths and try to help build up their weaknesses by adjusting to them, because you know your child best. And a teacher that teaches in a classroom who has 30 plus students can only do so much, can only have so much independent time with each student. You as the mother or father of your child doing homeschooling have a way better opportunity to do independent one-on-one time with your child and help them where they need it. Sometimes you might break up your children, do school with your daughter in the morning and do school with your son in the afternoon if they need the one-on-one time if they need one-on-one time. You were able to do that as a homeschooler. You were able to go play all day and after supper get a couple hours of schooling done. It's all about what works for you and what works for your child. Do not feel pressured from other homeschoolers, because we all do our own thing, right? Like, I have a classroom now. I have a special room in my house now for homeschooling, and that works for us. But there was years and years I just sat at the kitchen table with them, and that was fine. I switched to a schoolroom because of the fact that I have 5 children doing school, and my daughter is, I'm introducing into numbers, letters, shapes, colors, stuff like that. So I have 6 kids that I'm teaching right now. So having a classroom where I can shut the door and have quiet time, maybe if a couple are out in the living room playing video games or watching TV, I can shut the door and cancel out that noise, and I can sit with the kids that I'm teaching and we can have quiet. Now, if maybe you prefer to sit at the kitchen table, or maybe you prefer to sit outside in the yard and do schoolwork, that is perfectly acceptable and okay. Do not feel pressured by other homeschool moms. Do not feel pressured by moms that have been doing this 20 years and have all of this stuff and all of this equipment, curriculum, books, because when you're first starting out, you're new at it. And it takes time to gather things up. It takes time to find something that's right for you. Do not feel pressure from other homeschool moms. You can take tips, advice. You might see a curriculum that another mom's using and want to give it a try. That's perfectly great. But do not feel the need to copy somebody else, because that's where you'll go wrong. You'll copy somebody else's style or schedule, and it might just clash with you. You might not be able to keep up to it. It might not work with the way your house goes. It might not work with your job or your husband's job. It might not work with your kids. So just do what is right for you, and don't copy other people, because that's the biggest mistake that homeschoolers make, is they try to copy other people. And don't feel the obligation to copy the school system. Don't feel the obligation to start class at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning and go till 3. That's going to burn you out. It's not necessary with 2, 3, 4, 5 kids. It's not necessary to go that many hours. A couple hours a day, 15, 20, 30 minutes of each subject is enough. I go through 3, 4 subjects a day, and I just cycle through all the subjects throughout the week. Like Monday we will do reading, and then we'll do English, math, and maybe science. Tuesday we'll do reading, social studies, history, maybe a little bit of English. Wednesday I'll do arts and crafts, math, geography, and then I'll just keep cycling through all of the subjects to make sure I go over each subject a few times every week so that we cover everything. Do not feel the pressure to go through 7, 8 subjects a day, and because you're a parent, you have to clean, and you have to cook, and you have to take care of the children. You have to do so many things in a day. So just relax. And if you take 2, 3 weeks off, that's okay too, because I do that through the year too. A lot of times I school all summer long, and I take like January, February off, or March and April off. It just depends on how that school year is going and what I got planned, if we plan on going somewhere or take a vacation or whatever that may be. I did have a few field trips planned this year that I had to cancel because of everything being shut down. So I will just try to incorporate them field trips the next year. I can, as a traditional homeschool mom, I can be flexible like that, and I can adjust, and I can go with the flow, and I can change my schedule. I can take a day off and go to the spray park if it's super, super hot and it's just the kids aren't into school that day. I want to create an environment where learning is fun. Learning is something that the children enjoy. If it's something where they're like, oh, I don't want to do school today, I hate school, then it's defeating the purpose of what I'm trying to create. I don't want my kids to feel that way when it comes to learning. I want them to think that, I want them to be excited when I say it's time to sit down and do some reading or some English or something like that. I want them to be excited. And most of the time they are. Most of the time they're asking me, when's it school time? So I like that eagerness in them. And having a relaxed, layback schedule has really taken the pressure off of them. So my advice, if you're new to this, just relax, take a deep breath, go with the flow, ease into it. Do some research on what kind of method you'd like to do with your children. Do some research on what kind of curriculum might suit them best. And there's all kinds of free online resources available. And if you're in the elementary years, kindergarten, 1, 2, 3, there's not a lot of pressure there because it's all repetitive every year. You go over the same stuff every year. So just relax, focus on them, their reading, writing, and just have fun. Go outside and dig in the ground and explore nature because they learn that way too. Grab a science kit, do a science experiment, find a fun story and read it to them. Everything is a learning opportunity. I bought myself a board game called Canonopoly. We are going to play this game and it's going to teach them different places in Canada. So at the same time we're going to be having fun playing a board game, they're going to be learning geography. So there's many ways to make learning fun. So it's okay. And main thing I advise you, if your child is getting frustrated with an English lesson or a math lesson and you're starting to get frustrated, take a break, go have a snack, go play outside. Don't allow yourself to get upset and push your child through a lesson when they're frustrated, because it's just going to cause resentment towards schooling. There's no pressure. You have a learning space in your living room, kitchen, yard, a separate room in your house, whatever works best for your family. Homeschooling is supposed to be flexible and help give your children a love of learning. That's the most important thing to focus on. Growing a love of learning in your children. You are stepping outside the school system and cultivating a lifestyle of learning in which learning takes place from morning until bedtime, 7 days a week. It does not have to always be during class time. Yes, I do 2 to 3 hours of school time a day. That's book learning, writing on paper. The rest of the day, they are still learning. Believe it or not, when they're playing with Lego, when they're digging in the dirt outside, when we're going for a nature walk, when we're playing a board game, when they're playing video games, when they're watching TV, they are always learning. They're always coming up to me asking questions. Kids just want to learn. It's just part of the growing process. We learn when we bake cookies, when we cook supper, when we do dishes, when we clean our home, when we do laundry, when we go outside. We're just always learning. When they're watching me taking care of the baby, they're learning. It's from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, 7 days a week kind of thing. You're always learning. So as I mentioned earlier, my son struggled with reading. So I signed up for this online program called Night Zookeeper, and
Okay, I don't need to play the rest of that. So I hope that this video or live stream, so rather, has helped somebody out there with a question they might have, options that are available to you.
the most, the biggest thing I hear is I'm not smart enough to homeschool, which, yes, you are. And there's resources out there to help you if you feel like you need help with certain subjects. There is online teachers, online programs. There's options available through the school system for homeschoolers that will help you. Um, they will either provide a teacher or provide the resources needed to help with subjects. So you are quite capable of homeschooling your kids. The resources are out there. Um, Another thing I hear all the time is, I can't afford to homeschool. Well, think about it. Think about what you pay for to send your kid to public school. You pay for fees that come up. Uh, I remember when I was in school, my mother had to pay for school pictures, school yearbook, agenda, locker. Um, Here in BC for the longest time, it was you had to pay a few $100s a year for a bus fee because the buses picked your kid up and dropped your kid off. That's not everywhere, but some place it is. It is. Maybe you're somebody that goes and picks up your kid and drops them off every day. So that's gas that you pay for and time that you pay for. There's a school lunch every day that you pay for. You either pack a lunch or you send your kid with money, but either way, you're paying for that lunch every day. And so you've got to plan for that. And I know it might not seem like it, but eating at home versus having to buy special things for them to eat somewhere else every day does cost more to have to set aside lunches every day to send them with versus having things at home because they can eat leftovers at home, they can cook themselves up something at home. um, it is more expensive to have prepare for lunches every day for your kid. And there's other expenses when it comes to schooling. There's science fairs, there's book fairs, all these things, school dances, all kinds of things that I did when I went to public school as a kid throughout the year that cost my mom money. So you think about all of that money that what you would spend to send your kid to public school, and you take that money and you invest it in your child for homeschooling. And there you go. You have hundreds to thousands of dollars a year to invest in your kid. You like at the beginning of every school year, parents buy school supplies anyway. So you would just be buying school supplies for your home instead of the school system. See, public school is not free either. There's all these hidden expenses in public school that a parent has to pay for. And homeschoolers take that money that they would be investing in the public school system and they invest it in their child. So it is affordable to homeschooling. There's free resources. There's programs to get school supplies if you need them. There is several learning options for you. Some provide funding to help pay for things that you might want for your kid. Um, there is way you can make it affordable to meet your budget when you choose to homeschool. You do not need to spend thousands of dollars to school your kid at home. It's not that expensive. It's not that crazy. If you want to spend thousands of dollars on like a tutor or fancy books or a bunch of science uh, equipment and stuff like that, go for it. You can definitely do that. But there is resources out there for homeschoolers that can't afford that stuff that might need help getting resources. And there are so many people that offer worksheets and stuff online for free. And another option that I haven't mentioned yet is get involved in a community. There are homeschool parents that are done homeschooling or finished a grade level that they are giving away or selling really cheap curriculum and materials that they use the previous year or throughout the years of their children and their children's just done school. So there is that option. You can get cheap curriculum from somebody that's giving away curriculum that they don't need anymore, or um, there was another option. I lost my train of thought there. Oh, in my community, there is a thing called a lending library, where there is this homeschool mom. She lends out curriculum that she's got to people in the community, and you keep it for a set amount of weeks, and then you bring it back when you're done, and then it's available for somebody else to lend out. And people donate stuff to her. People give her money to help towards the library to help other homeschoolers. There is that kind of option out there for you. So my suggestion is, if you're thinking about homeschooling, just look into reach out to homeschoolers in your community, because I guarantee you there is homeschoolers in your community that you can talk to, and they can give you advice and help you with questions that you might have depending on the rules and regulations for your state or province. And if you're unsure if homeschooling's right for you, reach out to somebody and talk to a homeschool mom or dad, and it might help you make that choice, because it is a very big choice to make and it's very overwhelming. You don't know what options to pick. So just do some research about what's required of you, what your options are. Do some research of the homeschool community in your area. Get in touch with people, get to know other homeschoolers, and just know, if you make a choice for one homeschooling style and it doesn't work out, that doesn't mean you failed. Try something else. Try a different homeschooling method. Step back and reevaluate what you want out of homeschooling. Uh, take a step back and see what works for your child and what they're good at and what they have struggle with and what they despise, and try to make a plan that benefits them and it will benefit you. So, I have been talking about doing this live stream for almost an hour and 20 minutes now. I've gone over a lot of information. I If you have gotten to this point in the video and you have a question that I didn't talk about, let me know in the comments. Reach out to me, and I will try to either do a video talking about it, or if there's enough questions that come in, I can schedule another live stream talking about homeschooling, because that will show me that there's a need for this kind of live stream in this subject. I will base future videos I do on this subject or live streams based on what people are interested to know or want to know, and if there's a need in this community for this kind of information. I have tons of homeschooling videos on my channel of options available to you talking about homeschooling. You can always check those out. I will actually try to put together a homeschool playlist for you guys so that they're all easy to find for everybody. But if you've gotten to this point in the video and you have a question or comment, please leave it down in the comments below and I will try to get back to you. I want to thank everybody who's tuned in throughout this live stream for checking it out. Everybody that's hit that like button, thank you so much. If you've shared out this live stream to get it out there, thank you so much for helping push this information out into the YouTube world. Um, if you're not subscribed and you're interested in this kind of information. And I also do lots of other things like crafting. And I did talk a lot about the Freedom Convoy and stuff like that. If you're interested in this kind of information or this kind of content, please hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. Um, and if you are watching in the future, thank you for dropping by and checking out the video. And I wish everybody a great and wonderful day. I will see everybody in the next stream. Oh, where is it? There it is. That's what I was looking for.
When life keeps falling and wonder where he is in all this mess, he's right there to guide you. Unseen, you're not alone. His light shines on the past that we're not sure. When life keeps falling and wonder where he is in all this mess, he's right there to guide you. Unseen, you're not alone. His light shines on the past that we're not shown. Give me shelter, Lord, from this storm. As it poured, you made it cure. In an overcrowded mind, the hurt, it brings us down to where we reach for him. Our God comes to saves us from our faults and fears,
Three
giving
times
us the
three
peace that we
equals
so
three.
desperately
3 times 3 equals 3.
need.
6. 3 times 3 is 9.
Give me shelter,
Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Proverbs 23:24. The father of the righteous shall greatly rejoice, and he that begetteth a wise child shall have joy of him.